There will be less opportunities for pronghorn hunters this fall. We're visiting with Bruce Stillings, big game supervisor, to go over all the details. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department.
We're going to have a substantial decrease in licenses this year compared to last year. We're looking at 420 this year compared to over 1,900 last year in 2022. Last year we had 17 units open, and that was basically all our pronghorn hunting units that we could possibly open were open last year, and that was a long time coming, and it took since population recovery since 2009 that we were able to finally get them all open last year in 2022. Now this year we're going to be cutting back to only having 8 open pronghorn hunting units. Coming out what's turned out to be a historic winter for North Dakota standards. The winter severity index, for instance, for Bowman was the 3rd most extreme on record, and that takes into account snow depth and temperature. Bismarck had the second highest winter severity index on record. Dickinson experienced record snowfall. And then in Grassy Butte, where there isn't a national weather recording station, it had some of the most extreme winter conditions that we experienced, but unfortunately that wasn't quantified. So this winter was very devastating on pronghorn. Anybody that's followed pronghorn populations over time realizes that these extreme winter events are hard on all big game, but especially pronghorn, and that's exactly what we saw this past summer after doing our survey. Overall, the pronghorn population was down 40%, and that kind of had that north to south gradient, just like we saw with mule deer. Animals farther north had greater population declines than animals in their southern range. For instance, north of the Missouri River, pronghorn were down 60%. You look at the northern Badlands between north of Medora, they were down 53%, and then moving south of Medora, southern Badlands down 31%, and then down into the western Bowman region, the extreme southwest part of the state, down 15%. The buck to doe ratio was down a little bit, but stable and at population objective at 30 bucks per 100 does. Now, fawn production, and again, we anticipated and expected that production would be lower this year. Anytime you have those extreme winter events, you're putting lots of stress on those females, and for them to successfully carry a fawn to term gets to be very difficult. So we saw overall, when we classified over 5,100 animals, the fawn to doe ratio was 43 fawns per 100 does, which is the second lowest on record, and actually is following the lowest on record last year with our drought conditions at 41 fawns per 100 does in 2022. Anytime you have an extreme winter season, whether it's impacting deer or pronghorn, it's getting 2 major age classes at one time. So it's very hard on those fawns that are going into their first winter. They have less fat reserves. It's going to be more difficult for those animals to survive. So you almost eliminate that age class. And then for those surviving animals heading into this spring, those does that are in poorer condition are going to be less productive. So then you see less fawn production the following year, which again, that's affected 2 different age classes, and that's what can make population recovery, a little slower. We have management regions established, northern Badlands, southern Badlands, and western Bowman. Those are our key management regions. And so we have population objectives that are established that take into account number of animals that could be supported through a more normal North Dakota winter and are within tolerance of landowners. and can provide reasonable hunting opportunities for all license types. So then once we do our survey, we look at individual hunting units, and then we compared the results of those and how they are encased within the population within the whole management region. And for instance, in the northern Badlands, the minimum population we'd like to see is about 1,500 animals. And we were more down towards that 1,000 animal level. So kind of put us into the responsible action to give these animals a chance to recover quicker would be to have a closed season and give them a break for a year. So the licenses are set depending on where we're at within population, within that population objective essentially. The habitat conditions in this spring and summer look great. Pastures look great, crop fields, hay meadows. I mean, it probably couldn't look any better, and we are on that eastern edge of their overall range, and so we're limited with the amount of grassland, rangeland habitat that's needed to support a pronghorn population. But what habitat we do have is in very good condition, which is going to help animals go into this winter in better body condition. So we do a aerial strip transect survey where the pilot, he's going to fly down the half-mile line of the section, and then we're going to count and classify animals 1/2 mile on each side of the airplane. So when an animal is encountered on one side of the airplane, the pilot's going to veer off, and we're going to classify those animals as bucks, does, or fawns. This survey's been going on since the early 1960s. It's a large-scale effort. We've got 5 different crews that are stationed across the western part of the state, late June and early July, Watford City, Bowman, Dickinson Beach, and even out of Bismarck. And so this is designed to get a population level evaluation at a landscape level. So we're covering over 13,000 square miles, and we classified over 5,000 animals that's going to help us determine our population demographics. We didn't lose them all. It's, yeah, overall, you know, down 40%. That's a major reduction. But yeah, there's bright spots within every hunting unit, and even the closed hunting units. You'll have pockets of pretty good numbers of animals. You have pockets where the production is even a little bit better. But when you tally up all those groups within a survey unit or within a hunting unit, unfortunately, many of them aren't meeting that threshold to be able to support a harvest at this time. But yeah, there are animals on the landscape. You know, I guess one note that we did notice, you know, especially in the southern Badlands, that the animals were located pretty much in you know, normal areas where they're distributed, but the group sizes were considerably lower than last year and historically. We need time for rebound. We need to have a much more milder winter to increase overall survival, especially those fawns that were produced this year. And then we need to have, yeah, better body condition heading into that 2024 fawning season. And if we could get those 2 variables, we could be talking about, yeah, the first step into population recovery, and maybe a few more units open with a few more licenses.